Substantiate, to establish by proof or competent evidence. Welcome to the Substantiate podcast, where every week I discuss a new hypothetical matchup with a guest. I'm the host, William Glasser, and in this week's trailer, it's not a full episode, I am going to explain the backgrounds of this show, what it means to discuss a hypothetical matchup, and the origin story. So the backgrounds of this show, I do all the editing, I basically do everything in it. It's a lot of work, but it's going to be well worth it to be able to share this amazing content with the entire world, really, next Wednesday, August 26th, 2020. Episode 1 goes live. What does it mean to discuss a hypothetical matchup? So in this context, a hypothetical matchup is when you take two rivalries or two teams or just two people and you give them a new competition to compete in. So for example, next week's episode, the very first episode, is Michael Jordan versus Stephen Curry in golf. So me and my guest, we both talked about each of those players in many different categories that have to do with golf. So you'll have to stick around until Wednesday, August 26th to hear that episode. I'm going to leave the guest mystery for now. So, again, you'll have to come back next week to see who I'm talking about this with. Yeah. So that's a hypothetical matchup. Now, the origin story of this podcast. So in May, I think it was, in the middle of the NBA hiatus, I was listening to an episode of the Locked On Lakers podcast where the host, Anthony Irwin, and his guest, I'm not entirely sure who it was that day, they talked about Harry Potter characters versus Star Wars characters playing basketball. It was an awesome show. It was a lot of fun. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to turn that into its own podcast. So that's basically what's going on. So thank you for listening to this trailer. Come back next week for the first episode. And for a matter of fact, come back every week for new episodes. And you can follow our Instagram at SubstantiatePod, our Twitter at SubstantiatePod, our Facebook at SubstantiatePod. And get this, once our website is up and running, it's going to be substantiatepod.com. So again, all of the social medias at SubstantiatePod, and then the website will be substantiatepod.com. I'm in the process of getting that up and running. Again, come back every week for a new episode, and I'll see you then. Thank you for listening to this episode of Substantiate. The best way to help support the show is to, number 1, tell your friends about Substantiate. That is the number 1 way to support us. The second way is to leave us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or Podchaser. Number 3, follow us at SubstantiatePod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Hello, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
And we're hosts of Capes on the Couch, the podcast where comics get counseling.
Superheroes don't always get to go home happy. That's where we come in.
We offer psychiatric and mental health analysis of comic book characters.
So check us out at capesonthecouch.live and across all social media platforms at Capes on the Couch.